Hello everyone, good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome back to another Abyss review. Just a quick note before we begin, the footage in the background is from my newly started streams here on YouTube, so do check them out and subscribe to know when I am streaming. Anyway, welcome. We are back with another Abyss review, and well, this time the Abyss seems like it was very punishing on players. I saw a lot of comments of people struggling to complete it, and well, this was a result of both restricting floors on team comps and some tough chambers. And since I am covering this Abyss into its first reset, so we've gone through two buffs, I can talk a bit about the different buffs, which usually don't make a crazy difference necessarily, but this time the first one was very generally usable and useful, so it made the Abyss a much easier experience than the current buff. So again, I can talk a bit about these buffs and how they changed the way you could play the Abyss actually. So then let's begin. Floors 9 and 10 haven't changed, so it's straight to 11 and 12. Floor 11 isn't that hard, I would say. It has a lot of elemental variety as it is focused on Anemo and Swirl, since this Abyss was made for Skara's release. So Anemo is your best choice, but let's see, the chambers in more detail and see what elemental counters you're gonna need to bring in order to clear them easily. The first chamber and half is a monolith defense chamber. It's back, since it was gone for like one Abyss, and it is filled with Pyro, Cryo, and Hydro Slimes and Specters. Well, here bringing a variety of elements will easily deal with the enemies. While one character might not be able to deal damage to one type of slime and specter, your other three party members, if they are of different elements, will, and that is how you will clear this chamber. I mean, the enemies aren't scary either, they're just fucking small slimes, maybe a few big slimes and specters. And they're not scary to either you, they don't deal any damage really, or the monolith itself. If they can't really easily damage the monolith because every skill you fire at them will stun them. And especially, of course, if you bring any NMO character, their CC is enough to fully stun lock them. So they're absolutely not gonna be able to do anything. As for the second half, it has ruined constructs. Here, there's like 4 of them. You just wait for them to come a bit closer, because when they spawn, they wait a bit, and then they just barely move a bit closer, so that helps you a bit. And then take them down one by one if you're using mostly single target damage. If you're using AoE, I mean, you still want the enemies close together, but it might be easier to kill them. I don't think these guys are really susceptible to Anemo CC, so you can't force them. But still, they don't have that much HP since we are on floor 11, so they should be decently easy to deal with them. And here you're not pushed for time, you're pushed for the monolith's HP. As for the second chamber then, first half is filled with lots of Abyss Mages and an Abyss Herald. Swirl is just OP here and will make your life absolutely easier, but your main focus is on dealing with the Pyro Herald, so bringing in Hydro or Cryo at least is gonna, easily defeat this guy. There are 2 Hydro Mages that spawn alongside the Herald. They spawn on a different wave. There's 2 waves, one with, I believe, a Hydro or Cryo Abyss Mage and a Pyro one, and then there's the Herald and the 2 Mages, the Hydro Mages. So Cryo here will deal with the mages easily, but you can see how they want you to use Swirl to grab Hydro from the mages and then deal with the Pyro Herald's shield. That's how they want you to do it, or use the Pyro Herald's auto pyro application to deal with the shields of these guys. But yeah, Cryo might be a bit easier, but just bringing a Hydro unit will easily deal with the Pyro guy. As for the second half, it's a mix of ruined enemies, they aren't really scary, but be careful for those, ground lasers that those, like, snake things like to do. They can hurt, and other than that, they die easily, and also they group each other, they group themselves together, right? There's two walking drakes, they just walk towards you, and then the jellyfish or, like, snake thingy, it just, burrows underground and then spawns on top of you for an attack. So, they come close together, so they should be easily dealt with. And then the last chamber, the first half has some Fatu enemies and a Mirror Maiden, and then it has a second wave of some fungi. The Maiden is definitely annoying if you brought a Hydro character as a main DPS, so let's say, like, Hayato mostly, really, because she has extra resistances to Hydro. It's very annoying, so you will need some sort of Viridescent carrier to shred her resistances if, again, your main source of damage is Hydro. I mean, it should be easy to swirl it since you have some Hydro application, but, if you brought anything else and your Hydro application is some sort of sub-DPS, a la Xingqiu, Yelan perhaps, maybe even Kokomi, she won't be much of a problem, and the fungi go down very, very easily. As for the second half here, it is very scary. Very, very scary. The first time I played this Abyss, I got seriously scared when I spawned in. It has 4 ruined Sky Drakes. It's such a tease, I guess, or like a fake out. You spawn in, and right in front of you is just one of these drakes. So you're like, alright, so behind me there's another one, right? You turn the camera around, and you see 3 more on your back, and you're like, oh no. Really scary, yes, they are. They are scary, and they are very, very dangerous. Some very, very good healing is gonna be needed here, or a very good shielder, because these fuckers will 100% launch 3 missile swarms or more towards you, and those will absolutely melt you. So you will need to time your bursts to take advantage of the iframes, and be careful since many melee characters might have problems hitting them with their attacks. Hu Tao, especially, like, she cannot reliably charge attack these guys. And so see which attacks do hit them and just repeatedly use those. For ranged characters, of course, this won't be a problem, but again, be careful. These guys spam the missile attacks, they have the minigun attack, they can easily shred you. So be careful. I've seen a lot of people get instantly surprised by seeing these 4 guys and actually dying. Having characters die to these drakes. On to floor 12 then. The first chamber, and the first half, is the Perpetual Mechanical Array, or PMA for short. It's just the damage sponge, and also be careful if you're using any burst-reliant characters, a la, let's say, Ayaka, so that you don't miss your bursts or waste their duration when the PMA does some specific attacks, like when it does the rocket and goes up, like, you're not gonna fire off your Ayaka burst when it's starting the attack, right, because it's gonna completely miss. So be careful with that. And also, I mean, the PMA has appeared a lot of times in the Abyss. You should be able to counter it easily. And the second half is some Eremites. They aren't that scary, really, but there is a second wave with just one of these Eremite spirit spawning dudes, the one with the crocodile. So you will need to kill him fast before he spawns the animal and gets his resistances. But he also has the Geo Wave aura, which is just a pain in the ass. It doesn't add any interesting mechanic to the fight. It's just damage, and it does a lot of it. And yeah, it's just annoying. The guy is a bit tanky. Like, these Eremite dudes are tanky, and again, when they get the resistances, they seriously don't like taking any damage. But he should go down, but again, that Geo Wave is just really, really annoying. After that, we go on the second chamber. Here is where a lot of people will have a bit of trouble adjusting their teams. First half is 3 primal constructs, and then a wave of the other Eremite spirit spawning enemy. This time is the Anemone Lady with the Falcon. So it's the same thing here with the previous second half, the second half from before, only this time she doesn't have a Geo Aura. So you just need to absolutely delete her fast, because on the second half, there is the Geo Wolf Lord. Oh boy. Well, Ito is on the banner, was on the banner actually, so what a great opportunity to put this asshole in the Abyss. Well, yep, an extremely annoying boss as he is, that constantly flies, and his vulnerable times is not that much. And of course, you need Geo to break the heads that it spawns. So, a very annoying addition to the Abyss. Now, I have heard of people brute forcing this guy. Some people have killed it before it spawned the heads. Like, I've seen like people like Ayaka Ultim, and they just melted this thing. And some have destroyed the heads without needing Geo by using some crazy elemental application. I think of some people said like something with Nilu and her bloom cores that she can do it. But the easy and simple way is to just bring a Geo character. No need for a super specific team. But the problem is that many teams do not have a flex room for a throwaway Geo character. Or of course they do not bring a Geo character naturally, which is a big problem. As for the characters though that you can bring, anyone can really do this and kill the heads. From Ningyan to even someone like Yunjin, they should be good with just one decent Geo applicator. But again, it depends on the team, it depends on each team and on who will get replaced, as it might hurt the team a lot depending on which character you get out. Again, people have just said, okay, I just used Ningyan, or I just used Yunjin because I brought Yoimiya, let's say, and just one whole D from Yunjin did it. But some people said that, oh, I brought Ningyan, and then I wasn't able to do it. I just wasn't able to clear it. So, for me, I suggest hunting the stars separately. Make sure you get 3 stars on the other floors, and then optimize for the Wolf Lord. And then and you should be good with that. And then we have the last chamber. The first half is the Dendro Chicken, and you know, from the start of the 3.x versions, it has stayed in the Abyss most of the time, so you should be used to it and clear it pretty easily. But the second half, oh boy, here we go again. The second half contains 12 small Geodogs and 3 big dogs. It is hell. You better have some really good AoE, because single target is not gonna do it for this chamber. And of course, you will need a freaking good healer. Not just a fine one, an amazing killer, because these dogs will apply so much corrosion on you, you will disappear. It's hell. Again, as I mentioned, it is crazy. When I first played this, I see the dogs spawning around me. I'm like, okay, it's like 5 small dogs, and then I'm gonna get like 2 to 3 big dogs, right? And then I see up on the enemies defeated, and I see 0 out of 15, and I'm like, excuse me, what do you mean 15 dogs? Oh man, I suggest like bringing some low field time characters so that they don't get hurt by the corrosion on the field while they are casting the skills, and then they just die. Right, if they're off the field, they're gonna take damage, but the corrosion will at least stop. And also, of course, any team-wide healers are gonna be extremely valuable here. John, Chichi, Barbara, Kokomi, they're all party-wide healers, and they can help with the corrosion. And even some shielders, like, you know, how corrosion, like, you know, bypasses the shields and such. That's its whole thing. But it still is useful for not taking the full damage from the attacks, right? Which can easily hurt and kill you. So a shielder can still be useful, and you can do this thing without the healers that I specifically mentioned. For me, I used Bennett, but with healers like Bennett, only your main DPS is really gonna be healed, because your other character, because you need to quickly kill these things. Right, you're pressured on time, so you cannot just sit your characters inside of the healing field of the character to heal them. And that's why I suggested the low field characters, because, like, in my case, I used a triple Geo Ito team with Bennett. I used Zhongli, Ito, and Albedo with Bennett. And just quickly throwing Zhongli's and Albedo's ults and skills barely let them stay alive. And because there are so many doggos, though, they generate a good amount of particles. As such, your main DPS who is on the field will get their burst quickly back up. So there isn't a problem in the rotation of not staying on a character or not using all of their skills. right? Like, I could just throw down a meteor and not use the shield for Zhongli, and I'll still like have enough time to go back to Ito and his burst will be back up. That's what I mean. So if you're using burst reliant characters to deal with the doggos, don't worry, they generate lots of particles, so you won't have some sort of energy problem if, let's say, your support didn't trigger a Favonius proc. Something like that. But it is an incredibly scary chamber. And the big dogs, of course, are so annoying. They like to move around, so your abilities can easily miss them. Their hitboxes are ass. And yeah, they're very problematic, and it is very clearly they made this Abyss for Ito, who is now not on the banners, but that's how the Abyss goes. Oh boy. And that's it for the floors. As for the blessings, the buffs, the first one was an elemental damage bonus buff, where if you did the same type of elemental damage continuously, that character would get an elemental damage bonus. It made the Abyss very easy to clear and build around this buff. Like, everybody got buffed. No matter what you used, it was really, really good and allowed for lots of characters to deal some insane damage. Now, while the buff is very strong, which is that every time a character does a swirl reaction, it gives your party crit damage. 20%, and it stacks 3 times, so it's up to 60% just free crit damage. But it is limited to teams that use an Anemo character. And the optimal team for this second half, by the way, is, of course, triple or mono Geo Ito, which this team cannot use a character, an Anemo character. And also, Skyra's banner is gone, so how the heck will people get an Anemo character to use? I mean, don't you dare tell me they're gonna use the Anemo MC. Ah, classic MiHoYo. Why the heck is this why was this buff, the swirl buff, not on the first time? Like, when Skara and Ito's banner was up, and now the elemental damage bonus, which is more general, now where we have the Ride and Ayato reruns. Right? Like, why isn't it not like that? Once again, classic MiHoYo. Anyways, I hope the best of luck to you against this Abyss. For me, I switched up my stuff. I tried to go with... I used Skara in the first half to try him out, and he did really well against both the PMA and the Chicken and the Primal Construct especially. But then I brought my classic double Geo Hutao on the second half, and he just couldn't keep up with the dogs. Both the single target problem and the healing. So I switched up the teams. I put Hutao on the first half with Toma, Xingqiu, and Kazuha. And then on the second half, as I mentioned, I used triple Geo Ito with Bennett. And those teams very nicely cleared the Abyss. The triple Geo Ito did have a bit of a problem on the Wolf Lord with elemental energy, because my Bennett doesn't have a Favonius, he's using Skyward, and Zhongli and Albedo also aren't using a Favonius weapon either. So it definitely needed a bit of careful planning on how I'm gonna set up energy so that Ito does have his ultimate when the Geo Wolf Lord is stunned, right? It's a tough one, and he doesn't have that much energy recharge, of course, because farming artifacts is pain. Also, of course, as I mentioned, I have started streaming here on YouTube, so please do subscribe so that you know when the streams are starting. Usually they are on the afternoons, are at around 2 to 3 o'clock, it depends, and they run around for around 2 to 3 hours, depending on what we can do in Genshin, because there's not much usually, and whatever else we find to do. So see ya then, maybe. Anyways, though, but even if you're not gonna join the stream, see you in another video. Subscribe, as I mentioned, please, ring the bell and everything, like the video, onegaishimasu, and I'll see ya. Goodbye.